The morning sun cast long shadows across the palace grounds as William stood by the window of his private study. His fingers traced the cool glass while he watched the gardeners tend to Kate's favorite rose garden below. The red blooms she had planted 3 springs ago were in full bloom now, their petals catching the early light like drops of crimson against the green landscape. Kate had always loved mornings like this. She would wake before dawn, slip into her gardening clothes, and disappear into the grounds with her coffee mug and worn leather gloves. William would find her hours later, dirt under her fingernails and a peaceful smile on her face, surrounded by the flowers she nurtured with such care. But this morning was different. The doctors had been clear about what was coming. The treatments had stopped working months ago, though Kate had insisted on keeping up appearances for as long as possible. She never wanted the public to see her as anything less than the strong, graceful woman they had come to love. Even now, as she rested in their private quarters, she worried more about the impact on their children and the monarchy than her own comfort. Dr. Harrison knocked softly before entering the study. His face carried the weight of difficult news, though William already knew what he would say. They had discussed this moment many times over the past weeks, preparing for what seemed impossible to accept. "Your Royal Highness," Dr. Harrison said quietly. "I believe it's time." William nodded slowly, his throat tight with emotion he had been holding back for months. As future king, he had been trained his entire life to remain composed, to put duty before personal feelings. But in this moment he was simply a husband watching the love of his life slip away. He made his way through the familiar corridors of their private wing, past family photographs that chronicled their life together, their wedding day, with Kate's radiant smile and his nervous but joyful expression, the children's first steps, Christmas mornings, quiet family dinners. Each image felt like a treasure now, precious memories of a life they had built together against all odds. Kate was awake when he entered their bedroom, propped up against pillows with her hair brushed back from her face. Despite everything, she still looked beautiful to him. Her eyes, though tired, still held the same warmth that had captured his heart all those years ago, when they were just university students with no idea their love story would play out on the world stage. "Good morning, darling," she whispered, her voice soft but steady. "How are the roses looking today?" William sat on the edge of the bed, taking her hand in his. Her fingers felt smaller than he remembered, more fragile, but her grip was still firm. "Beautiful," he said, bringing her hand to his lips. "Just like their gardener." Kate smiled, the same gentle expression that had graced thousands of official photographs but somehow felt entirely different in this private moment. "You always were a charmer, William Wales." They had agreed weeks ago that when this day came they would spend it together, away from the demands of royal protocol and public scrutiny. No cameras, no statements, no official duties, just the two of them, holding on to each other for as long as they could. Outside their window, London was waking up. Traffic began to build on the distant streets, people starting their ordinary Monday morning routines with no idea that behind palace walls, a love story that had captured the world's imagination was approaching its most heartbreaking chapter. Kate shifted slightly, and William helped her find a more comfortable position. "Tell me about your dreams," she said, as she had done countless times during their courtship and marriage. It was their ritual, sharing the hopes and fears that came to them in sleep. "I dreamed we were back at St. Andrews," William said, his thumb tracing circles on her palm. "You were wearing that blue dress from the fashion show, the one that made me realize I was completely hopeless when it came to you. We were walking by the pier and you were laughing at something ridiculous I had said." "You were always saying ridiculous things," Kate replied, her eyes twinkling with familiar mischief. "It was one of your most endearing qualities." As the morning progressed, they shared stories, memories, and quiet moments of simply being together. Kate dozed occasionally, but always woke to find William there holding her hand, watching over her with the same protective instincts that had guided him through their entire relationship. The palace staff moved quietly through the corridors, understanding without being told that this was a day for privacy and respect. Even the most senior advisors knew better than to interrupt unless absolutely necessary. The world outside could wait while William and Kate said goodbye in their own way. Dr. Harrison checked in periodically but remained unobtrusive, giving the couple space while ensuring Kate was comfortable. The pain medication kept her peaceful, but alert enough to engage in conversation and share these final precious hours with her husband. As afternoon approached, Kate asked William to open the windows so she could hear the sounds of the garden. The chirping of birds, the gentle rustle of leaves in the breeze, and the distant sounds of life continuing beyond the palace walls created a natural symphony that had always brought her peace. "I want you to know," she said, her voice growing softer as fatigue began to overtake her, "that every day with you has been a gift. Even the difficult ones, even the times when the pressure felt overwhelming. I never regretted choosing this life with you." William felt tears threaten to spill over, but he maintained his composure, knowing Kate needed his strength in these moments. "You made everything better," he replied. "Every single day just by being yourself." The afternoon light began to shift, casting a golden glow across their bedroom. Kate's breathing had grown shallower, but she remained present, her eyes focused on William's face as if memorizing every detail. Their hands remained intertwined, a connection that had sustained them through years of public scrutiny, personal challenges, and the unique pressures of royal life. This was their time, these quiet hours away from the world that had watched their every move. No cameras captured Kate's peaceful expression or William's tender vigil. No reporters documented the gentle words they shared or the comfortable silences that spoke of deep, abiding love. As evening approached, both of them understood that their final goodbye was drawing near. The sun was setting behind the ancient oak trees when Kate squeezed William's hand with surprising strength. Her eyes had grown heavy throughout the afternoon, but now they opened wide, clear and focused on his face. She wanted to see him properly for what they both knew would be the last time. "Will you help me sit up?" she asked softly. "I want to watch the sunset with you." William carefully adjusted the pillows behind her, supporting her slight frame as she settled against him. Through the open window, they could see the sky painting itself in shades of orange and pink, the same colors that had filled the horizon on their honeymoon in the Seychelles all those years ago. "Do you remember our first sunset together?" Kate whispered, her head resting on his shoulder. "In your tiny flat at university? We had been studying for hours and you made that awful instant coffee." William chuckled softly, the memory bringing both joy and pain. "You said it tasted like dishwater, but you drank it anyway because you didn't want to hurt my feelings." "I was already falling in love with you," she admitted, though I tried to pretend I wasn't. "You were so nervous around me then, always dropping things and stumbling over your words when we were alone." "I still get nervous around you," William said, pressing a gentle kiss to the top of her head. "You still take my breath away." Kate turned her face up to look at him, and in that moment he saw not the polished princess the world knew, but the young woman who had stolen his heart in a university lecture hall. Her eyes held the same intelligence and warmth that had drawn him to her from the very beginning. As darkness began to fall outside, Dr. Harrison appeared in the doorway, his expression grave but respectful. He didn't need to speak. They all understood that time was growing short. Kate's breathing had become more labored, and William could feel how much effort it took for her to stay present with him. "I need to tell you something," Kate said, her voice barely above a whisper now. "About the children, about everything." William leaned closer, his heart breaking as he saw the worry in her eyes. Even now, facing her final moments, she was thinking of others, concerned about the future and the responsibilities she was leaving behind. "George will be a wonderful king someday," she continued, pausing to catch her breath. "But he's still just a boy. Let him be a child for as long as possible. Don't let the weight of the crown steal his childhood the way it sometimes stole yours." "I promise," William said, his voice thick with emotion. "And Charlotte?" "She has my stubborn streak," Kate smiled weakly. "She'll challenge everything and everyone, but that fire will serve her well. The world needs strong women who aren't afraid to speak their minds. And Louis, he has your heart," she said, reaching up to touch William's cheek. "He feels everything so deeply. Protect that tenderness. The world will try to make him hard, but don't let it." William captured her hand against his face, holding it there as if he could keep her with him through touch alone. "They'll know how much their mother loved them," he promised. "Every single day they'll know." Kate's eyes drifted closed for a moment, and William thought she might be slipping away. But she opened them again, seeming to gather strength from somewhere deep within herself. "The foundation," she said, referring to the charitable work that had become her passion. "Continue the mental health initiatives. Promise me the children won't suffer in silence the way so many do. I promise, William said immediately. Your work will continue. Your legacy will live on. A comfortable silence fell between them as Kate rested against him, her breathing shallow but peaceful. Outside London had settled into evening quiet, the usual sounds of traffic and urban life seeming muted and distant. It was as if the entire city was holding its breath, sensing that something momentous was happening within the palace walls. William found himself remembering their courtship, the careful dance they had performed as their relationship deepened under the watchful eyes of the press. Kate had handled the pressure with such grace, never complaining about the intrusion into her privacy or the constant speculation about their future. Do you regret it? He asked suddenly. Choosing this life? Giving up your freedom for duty and protocol? Kate was quiet for so long that William wondered if she had fallen asleep. But then she spoke, her words clear despite her weakness. I regret nothing, she said firmly. Every sacrifice was worth it. Every difficult moment was balanced by 100 beautiful ones. I got to love you, to be your partner, to help people, to raise our children. How could I regret a life so full of purpose and love? Dr. Harrison approached quietly, checking Kate's pulse and breathing without disturbing their conversation. His gentle nod to William conveyed what they both already knew. There wasn't much time left. Will you read to me? Kate asked, glancing toward the bookshelf where their favorite poetry collection sat. The sonnets? William reluctantly released her hand long enough to retrieve the worn volume, its pages marked with years of shared reading. He returned to his position beside her, opening to a poem they had read together countless times. As his voice filled the room with Shakespeare's timeless words about love and eternity, Kate's breathing grew more peaceful. Her hand rested in his, their fingers intertwined as they had been throughout this long, precious day. The words of the sonnet seemed especially meaningful now. Love's not time's fool, though rosy lips and cheeks within his bending sickle's compass come. William's voice caught slightly as he read, understanding perhaps for the first time that their love truly would transcend time and death. Kate's eyes were closed now, but her fingers still moved slightly against his, letting him know she was listening, that she was still with him. The gentle rise and fall of her chest had slowed but remained steady. Keep reading, she whispered without opening her eyes. Your voice has always been my favorite sound. As William continued reading, he realized this was exactly how Kate would want to leave the world, surrounded by beauty, literature and love with no fanfare or drama, just the quiet dignity that had defined her entire adult life. The clock on the mantel showed just past 9 when Kate stirred again, her eyes fluttering open. William had been reading quietly for nearly an hour, his voice growing hoarse but never stopping. She had drifted in and out of consciousness, but each time she woke, she found him there holding her hand, speaking words of love and poetry into the gentle darkness of their room. William, she whispered, and he immediately set the book aside, leaning closer to hear her. I need you to do something for me. Anything, he said without hesitation, stroking her hair back from her forehead. Whatever you need. In my jewelry box, she said, each word requiring effort now. The small wooden one from my university days, not the official collection. There's a letter for each of the children and one for you. I've been writing them for months. William felt his composure crack slightly at this revelation. Even while battling her illness, Kate had been thinking ahead, preparing for this moment, trying to leave pieces of herself behind for the people she loved most. I'll find them, he promised, though the thought of reading her final words to him seemed impossible to bear. And William, she continued, I want you to love again someday. Not right away, not until you're ready, but someday. The children need to see that life goes on, that love doesn't end with loss. Kate, I can't think about that now, William said, his voice breaking slightly. You're all I've ever wanted. I know, she replied gently. But I also know you. You have too much love in your heart to keep it locked away forever. When the time is right, when someone special comes along, don't feel guilty for being happy. I want you to be happy. The conversation exhausted her and she closed her eyes again, her breathing becoming more shallow with each passing minute. William watched her face in the soft lamplight, memorizing every detail, the curve of her cheek, the way her eyelashes cast shadows below her eyes, the peaceful expression that had settled over her features. Dr. Harrison appeared again, this time with a nurse who began checking Kate's vital signs with practiced discretion. Their movements were gentle and respectful, understanding that they were witnesses to something sacred and private. "How much longer?" William asked quietly when the medical team stepped away. "Not long now," Dr. Harrison replied softly. "She's very peaceful. There's no distress, no pain. She's simply letting go." William nodded, grateful that Kate's final hours were free from suffering. She had endured so much during her illness, always with remarkable strength and dignity, never complaining even during the worst of the treatments. As midnight approached, Kate's eyes opened once more. This time there was something different about her gaze, a clarity that seemed to come from somewhere beyond the physical world. She looked directly at William with an intensity that took his breath away. "I can see her," she whispered, wonder in her voice. "See who, darling?" William asked, leaning closer. "Diana," Kate replied, her voice stronger than it had been all evening. "She's here. She says she's been waiting to meet me properly." William felt chills run down his spine. Kate had always had a deep respect for his mother's memory, but she had never claimed to see her or communicate with her. The doctors had warned that sometimes, near the end, people experienced visions or hallucinations, but something about Kate's expression convinced him that what she was experiencing was real, at least to her. "What does she say?" he asked gently, playing along with what might be Kate's final comfort. "She says thank you," Kate replied, tears beginning to form in her eyes, "for taking care of you, for loving you the way you deserve to be loved. She says she's proud of the man you became and the father you are." William felt his own tears begin to fall. Whether Kate was truly seeing his mother or not, her words brought him a sense of peace he hadn't expected. The idea that Diana was somehow present, somehow welcoming Kate, made the approaching loss feel less like an ending and more like a transition. "She's beautiful, William," Kate continued, her voice filled with awe, "even more beautiful than in her photographs. And she's smiling. She says she's been watching over all of us, especially the children." For several minutes, Kate seemed to be having a conversation with someone William couldn't see. Her face brightened occasionally, and she even laughed softly once or twice. Whatever she was experiencing was bringing her joy in these final moments, and that was all William could ask for. Finally, Kate's attention returned to him. "She says it's almost time," she told him, reaching up to touch his face one last time. "But she also says love like ours doesn't die. It just changes form." William caught her hand and held it against his cheek, feeling the warmth of her palm, the familiar shape of her fingers. "I love you, Kate," he said, pouring all of his heart into those simple words. "I have loved you from the moment I met you, and I will love you until the end of time." "And I love you," she replied, her voice growing fainter but no less sincere. "Always and forever, my darling William, always and forever." The room fell into peaceful silence, broken only by the soft ticking of the antique clock and the distant sounds of London at night. Kate's eyes remained open, fixed on William's face with unwavering love and trust. Outside, a gentle rain began to fall against the windows, creating a soft, rhythmic soundtrack to these final precious moments. The sound seemed to relax Kate even further, reminding them both of countless cozy evenings they had spent together, listening to storms while safe and warm in each other's arms. Dr. Harrison remained nearby, but at a respectful distance, understanding that these were sacred moments between husband and wife. The nurse had withdrawn entirely, leaving William and Kate alone with their love and their goodbye. As the rain continued to fall and the clock approached the midnight hour, Kate's breathing became even more gentle, each breath a little softer than the last. But her eyes never left William's face, and her hand never loosened its grip on his. "Stay with me," she whispered, though they both knew he had never left her side and never would. "Always," William replied, bringing their joined hands to his heart. "I'm right here, my love. Right here." The clock struck midnight with 12 gentle chimes that seemed to echo through the palace halls. Kate's breathing had become so soft that William had to lean close to feel the whisper of air from her lips. Her eyes remained fixed on his face, filled with a love so pure and complete that it seemed to illuminate the room around them. "Do you remember?" Kate whispered, her voice barely audible now. "Our wedding day, when you took my hand at the altar?" "Of course," William replied, his throat tight with emotion. "You were trembling slightly, but your smile was so radiant it nearly knocked me over. I wasn't nervous about marrying you," she said, pausing between words to gather strength. "I was overwhelmed by how perfect that moment felt, Like everything in my life had led me to that exact second when our hands touched. William remembered it perfectly. The moment when Kate placed her hand in his before the Archbishop of Canterbury. The soft warmth of her palm, the slight tremor in her fingers, the way her eyes had locked onto his with complete trust and love. In that instant, surrounded by centuries of tradition and the eyes of the world, they had become partners in the truest sense. Your hands were so steady, Kate continued, a slight smile playing at the corners of her mouth. I drew strength from that, from you. I always did. Dr. Harrison approached quietly, checking Kate's pulse with gentle fingers at her wrist. His expression was grave but peaceful. He caught William's eye and gave the slightest nod. They were approaching the final moments. Kate, William said softly, bringing her hand to his lips once more. I want you to know that being your husband has been the greatest honor of my life. Not because of the titles or the duty, but because you chose to share your heart with me. And I want you to know, Kate replied, each word carefully spoken despite her weakness, that you made me feel like the most loved woman in the world. Every single day, even when we were apart for royal duties, even during the difficult times. You never let me doubt how much I meant to you. The rain outside had intensified, creating a gentle symphony against the windows. Kate had always loved the sound of rain. It reminded her of her childhood in Berkshire, of cozy afternoons reading by the window while her parents worked in their garden. Now it seemed like nature itself was providing a peaceful backdrop for her final moments. Tell me about the children one more time, she requested, though speaking was becoming increasingly difficult. Tell me about their futures, about the wonderful things they'll do. William understood that she needed to hear about life continuing, about the legacy of love they had created together, living on through their children. He began to speak softly about George's natural leadership qualities, Charlotte's fierce independence, and Louis's compassionate heart. George will be a king who truly cares about his people, William said, painting a picture of the future with words. He has your empathy and your ability to connect with others. Charlotte will change the world through her determination and intelligence, and Louis will be the heart of our family, keeping everyone grounded in love and kindness. Kate's eyes brightened at the descriptions of their children's potential. Even in her final moments, nothing brought her more joy than thinking about the three little souls she and William had brought into the world together. They'll remember you, Kate, William promised. Not just from photographs or official records, but from the love you poured into them every day. The songs you sang at bedtime, the way you always made time for their questions, how you taught them to be kind and thoughtful. And they'll have you, Kate whispered back, the best father they could ever ask for. As they talked about their children, Kate seemed to rally slightly, finding strength in her love for George, Charlotte, and Louis. But both she and William could feel that this surge of energy was temporary, a last gift allowing them to share these final precious thoughts. The palace around them was completely quiet now. Even the night staff moved with extra care, understanding that their prince and his beloved wife were saying goodbye. Outside, London slept on, unaware that one of its most cherished royal love stories was reaching its conclusion in a quiet bedroom overlooking the gardens. Dr. Harrison remained close by, but gave them space, recognizing that these moments belonged to William and Kate alone. His presence was comforting, ensuring that Kate remained comfortable and pain-free, but unobtrusive enough that the couple could focus entirely on each other. Kate's breathing had grown so shallow now that William had to watch carefully to see the rise and fall of her chest. Her grip on his hand remained firm, though, as if she was using their physical connection to anchor herself to the world for just a little longer. When I'm gone, she said suddenly, her voice clearer than it had been for the past hour, I want you to go to the rose garden. Plant something new there, something beautiful that will bloom every year. Let it be a place where you and the children can remember the happy times. I will, William promised, already envisioning the memorial garden they would create in her honor. What kind of flowers would you like? White roses, Kate replied without hesitation. For new beginnings and eternal love. And maybe some lavender. You know how much I love the scent. The image of this future garden gave them both comfort. A living memorial where Kate's family could feel close to her, where her love of growing things could continue to bring beauty into the world even after she was gone. Kate's eyes began to drift closed, but she fought to keep them open, not wanting to miss a single moment of looking at William's face. The love she saw there, the way he gazed at her as if she were the most precious thing in the world, gave her peace about leaving him. "You're going to be all right," she said with quiet conviction. "You're stronger than you think, and you're surrounded by people who love you. The children need you, the country needs you, but most importantly, you need to keep living. Keep finding joy." William nodded, though the thought of joy without Kate seemed impossible in that moment. He knew she was right. Life would go on, duty would continue, and their children would need him to be strong. But right now, all that mattered was making sure Kate knew how completely she was loved. "I'm so proud of you," she whispered as her eyes finally closed. "My wonderful, caring, devoted husband. Thank you for the most beautiful life I could have imagined." The silence that followed Kate's last words was profound and sacred. Her breathing had become so gentle that William had to place his ear close to her lips to hear it. Each breath seemed to last forever, followed by a pause that made his heart skip, only to be relieved by another soft exhale. William found himself thinking about their hands, how they had met and intertwined throughout their relationship. Their first nervous handshake when they were introduced at university. The way Kate had reached for his hand during their first official public appearance. How their fingers had locked together during their engagement interview, both of them drawing strength from that simple touch. Their wedding day, hand clasp before God and the world. Kate's hands in his during the births of their children, her grip fierce and trusting as they welcomed each new life together. Countless royal engagements where a gentle touch between them had communicated support, love, and partnership without words. Now, holding her hand in these final moments, William understood that this simple gesture had been the foundation of everything they had built together. Through touch, they had shared comfort, love, strength, and hope. Their hands had been their constant connection, their anchor to each other through all of life's storms and celebrations. Kate's breathing grew even more gentle, each exhale softer than the last. Her face remained peaceful, almost ethereal in the soft lamplight. She looked younger somehow, as if the pain and worry of her illness had melted away, leaving only the beautiful woman William had fallen in love with all those years ago. "I can see the sunrise," Kate whispered suddenly. Though outside their window it was still the deep darkness of early morning. Her eyes remained closed, but her face turned slightly toward the window as if she were indeed seeing the first light of dawn. William looked toward the window but saw only his own reflection and Kate's in the glass, surrounded by the warm glow of their bedroom lamps. Yet something about her expression convinced him that she was seeing something beautiful, something that brought her peace. "Is it beautiful?" he asked softly, willing to follow her into whatever vision was comforting her now. "So beautiful," she replied, her voice filled with wonder. "Golden and warm, and everything feels light. No more pain, no more worry, just light and love and the most incredible sense of coming home." Dr. Harrison stepped closer, his experienced eye recognizing the signs that the end was very near. He placed a gentle hand on William's shoulder, a gesture of support that didn't require words. William nodded slightly, understanding, but never took his eyes off Kate's face. "Are you ready, my darling?" William asked, though the words felt impossible to speak. "Are you at peace?" "I'm ready," Kate whispered, her voice so faint now that he had to lean close to hear her. "I'm not afraid. How could I be afraid when I've been so completely loved?" Her hand squeezed his one final time, a gentle pressure that conveyed everything words could not. In that squeeze, William felt her gratitude for their life together, her love for him and their children, her trust in his ability to carry on without her, and her peaceful acceptance of what was coming. The clock on the mantel began to chime again. It was 1 o'clock in the morning. As the first chime sounded, Kate drew in a breath that seemed deeper than the ones before it. Her face tilted upward slightly as if she were lifting her face to that sunrise only she could see. The second chime echoed through the room as Kate exhaled slowly, peacefully. The third chime sounded, then the fourth, and with each successive toll of the clock, the spaces between Kate's breaths grew longer. By the seventh chime, her breathing had stopped entirely. Her face remained serene, beautiful, utterly at peace. Her hand still rested in William's, warm and soft, their fingers intertwined as they had been for hours. William continued to hold her hand as the clock finished striking the hour, as if by maintaining their connection he could somehow keep her with him just a little longer. Dr. Harrison waited respectfully before stepping forward to perform the medical formalities that would officially mark the end of Kate's remarkable life. "She's gone," Dr. Harrison said gently after checking for vital signs. "Very peacefully. Exactly as she would have wanted." William nodded, still unable to let go of Kate's hand. She looked as if she were simply sleeping, ready to wake at any moment with that gentle smile that had brightened his world for so many years. The reality of her death hadn't fully hit him yet. For now, she was still his Kate, still beautiful, still present in the room with him. "Take all the time you need," Dr. Harrison said quietly. "I'll make the necessary calls, but they can wait. This time is yours." Alone with Kate again, William finally allowed himself to cry. The tears he had held back all day, all through her illness, finally came in quiet, gentle sobs that shook his shoulders. He cried for the future they wouldn't have, for the grandchildren Kate would never meet, for the countless conversations and quiet moments they would never share. But even through his grief, William felt something else, a profound gratitude for the love they had shared. Kate had been right when she said their life together had been beautiful. Despite the pressures and challenges, despite the constant scrutiny and impossible demands, they had created something precious together. As dawn finally began to break outside their window, William continued to hold Kate's hand. The real sunrise painted the sky in soft pastels, nothing like the golden light Kate had described seeing, but beautiful in its own quiet way. It seemed fitting that she was leaving the world just as a new day was beginning. Kate had always been someone who looked forward, who found hope and possibility in each fresh start. When he was finally ready, William gently kissed Kate's forehead one last time before carefully placing her hand at her side. She looked peaceful and dignified, every inch the graceful princess the world had come to love. Outside, London was beginning to wake up to a Tuesday morning that would change everything. Soon, the palace would release a statement that would shock the world and send millions of people into mourning for a woman who had touched their lives through her kindness, dedication, and grace. But for now, in the quiet of their bedroom as the sun rose over the gardens Kate had loved, William simply stood by the window and remembered the extraordinary woman who had chosen to share her life with him. 3 hours after Kate drew her final breath, William still sat beside her bed, unwilling to leave her side. The palace staff moved quietly through the corridors, preparing for the flood of activity that would soon transform their home into the center of global attention. But William's private quarters remained a sanctuary of peace, a place where time seemed suspended and love lingered in every corner. Dr. Harrison had returned twice, each time asking gently if William was ready for the next steps. Each time William had asked for just a little more time. He understood the practical necessities that lay ahead: official pronouncements, funeral arrangements, the careful choreography that would guide the nation through its grief. But right now, he needed these quiet moments to say goodbye properly. The sun had fully risen now, streaming through the windows and illuminating the rose garden below. William could see the groundskeepers beginning their daily routines, unaware that the woman who had planned and nurtured these gardens with such love would never walk among them again. A soft knock at the door interrupted his thoughts. Charles entered quietly, his face etched with grief not just for Kate but for his son who was facing an unimaginable loss. The king approached slowly, understanding the sacredness of the moment. "William," Charles said gently, placing a hand on his son's shoulder. "I know this is impossibly difficult, but the staff needs to begin preparations. The world will need to know soon." William nodded, finally understanding that his private time with Kate was coming to an end. The world beyond these walls had responsibilities and expectations that couldn't be ignored forever. But first there was something he needed to do. 5 more minutes, William said quietly. "Then I'll be ready." Charles squeezed his shoulder and withdrew, giving his son the space he needed for this final farewell. Alone with Kate again, William reached into the small wooden jewelry box she had mentioned earlier. His hands trembled as he found the letters she had written, one for each of their children, and a thick envelope marked simply "My darling William" in her familiar handwriting. He held the letter addressed to him, feeling its weight, knowing that within these pages were Kate's final thoughts, her hopes for his future, her love expressed in the careful words she had chosen during her last weeks. Part of him wanted to read it immediately, to hear her voice one more time through her writing. But another part wanted to save it, to have something of hers to discover later when the immediate shock of loss had given way to the longer journey of grief. He decided to wait. The letter would be there when he was ready, a gift from Kate to help guide him through the difficult days ahead. Standing slowly, William took one last look at his wife's peaceful face. She appeared younger in death, the stress and pain of her illness erased, leaving only the beauty and serenity that had first captured his heart. He leaned down and kissed her forehead gently. "Thank you," he whispered, "for everything, for choosing me, for loving me, for giving me the greatest happiness I've ever known. I'll take care of our children. I'll honor your memory. And someday, when it's my time, I'll find you again." With that final promise, William straightened his shoulders and prepared to face the world as a widower, a single father, and a future king who had just lost his greatest source of strength and comfort. The palace staff entered with quiet efficiency as William stepped into the hallway. Dr. Harrison followed, carrying the official documentation that would formally record Kate's passing. Within hours, the careful protocols that governed royal deaths would transform a private tragedy into a public moment of national mourning. By mid-morning, the official announcement had been released. The simple statement, crafted with dignity and respect, informed the world that Catherine, Princess of Wales, had died peacefully in her sleep, surrounded by her family. No details were given about her final hours, protecting the intimacy of those last precious moments she had shared with William. The reaction was immediate and overwhelming. Flowers began appearing at palace gates within minutes of the announcement. Social media flooded with tributes from world leaders, celebrities, and ordinary people whose lives Kate had touched through her charitable work and public service. News channels cleared their schedules to cover the story that had shocked the world. But inside the palace, William focused on the most important task ahead of him, telling his children that their mother was gone. George, Charlotte, and Louis had been staying with their grandfather Charles, protected from the intensity of Kate's final days, but aware that their mother was very ill. The conversation with his children was the hardest thing William had ever done. George, at 11, understood the finality of death and wept openly in his father's arms. Charlotte, 9, asked if Mummy was in heaven with Granny Diana, a question that brought William both tears and comfort. 7-year-old Louis simply couldn't comprehend that his mother wouldn't be coming home, and William knew it would take time for that reality to truly sink in. In the days that followed, William found himself drawing on reserves of strength he didn't know he possessed. There were funeral arrangements to approve, a service to plan that would honor Kate's life while providing comfort to a grieving nation. Every decision required his input, every detail needed his approval, all while he was trying to process his own overwhelming loss. The children became his anchor during those dark days. Their need for stability and comfort forced him to function, to maintain routines, to project strength even when he felt completely shattered inside. He found himself telling them stories about their mother, sharing memories that made them laugh through their tears. The state funeral, held 10 days after Kate's death, was a masterpiece of dignity and love. Westminster Abbey was filled with flowers from the gardens Kate had designed and tended. The music included her favorite hymns and the pieces that had played at their wedding. World leaders sat alongside the ordinary people whose lives Kate had touched through her charity work. William's eulogy was simple and heartfelt. He spoke not of royal duty or constitutional roles, but of Kate as a wife, mother, and friend. He told the gathered mourners about her love of gardening, her terrible attempts at cooking, her fierce protectiveness of their children's privacy, and her ability to find humor in even the most formal royal occasions. "She taught me that strength isn't about never being afraid," William said, his voice steady despite his grief. "It's about choosing love and kindness even when fear and pain seem overwhelming. She chose love every day of her life, and in doing so, she made all of our lives immeasurably richer." The funeral procession through London was lined with millions of people, many holding photographs of Kate or bouquets of white roses. The outpouring of love and respect was unprecedented, a testament to how deeply she had touched the hearts of people around the world. As the service concluded and Kate's coffin was carried from the Abbey, William felt the weight of the future settling on his shoulders. He was now a single father, a widower, and a man who would one day be king without the partner who had made those roles bearable. But as he walked behind the coffin carrying the love of his life, William also felt something else: gratitude. Gratitude for the years they had shared, for the children they had raised together, for a love that had been deep enough to sustain him even in loss. In the months that followed, William slowly learned to navigate life without Kate. He threw himself into his royal duties and charitable work, finding purpose in continuing the causes she had championed. The children gradually adjusted to their new reality, though all of them continued to miss their mother terribly. William kept his promise about the memorial garden. That spring, he and the children planted white roses and lavender in a quiet corner of the palace grounds. It became a place where they could go to feel close to Kate, where her love of growing things continued to bring beauty into their lives. The letters Kate had written became treasures beyond price. On difficult days, William would read his letter again, finding comfort in her words of love and guidance. On the children's birthdays and other special occasions, he would share portions of their letters from their mother, keeping her voice alive in their hearts. Years later, when well-meaning friends and advisors suggested it might be time for William to consider remarrying, he would think of Kate's words encouraging him to love again. He knew that someday, when the time was right, he might open his heart to another, but he also knew that what he had shared with Kate was irreplaceable, a once-in-a-lifetime love that had shaped him into the man, father and future king he had become. The story of William and Kate's final goodbye never became public knowledge. The intimate details of their last day together remained private, known only to William, Dr. Harrison, and the few staff members who had witnessed their extraordinary love in its final hours. But sometimes, when William stood in Kate's memorial garden watching their children play among the roses she had inspired, he could almost feel her hand in his again, warm, steady, and eternal. In those moments, he understood that love like theirs didn't truly end with death. It simply transformed, becoming something deeper and more enduring than physical presence could ever be. Their hands had met in a university hallway many years ago, beginning a love story that had captured the world's imagination. That final touch, in the quiet darkness of their bedroom, had sealed a bond that would last forever, a love that not even death could part.